Dr. Myk Habets from Laidlaw College. Myk, kia ora, welcome to the show today.
Kia ora, thanks for having me.
It is a big statement. I mean, we're a secular nation in some ways, but are we as secular as some people claim to be? And so I've heard the current world that we're in is a post-secular world. What does that look like?
Yeah, look, I think we are, and I think statistics and every indication is that New Zealand and Australia are incredibly secular. When you travel overseas and you come back home, you realise in the rest of the world, 8 out of 10 people are deeply, deeply religious. In New Zealand, it's the other way.
Yeah.
8 out of 10 people couldn't care less, it seems. Or scratch below the surface, they might not have organised religion, as it's now called, but everyone is deeply spiritual. What is meant by spiritual is the million-dollar question. But every person has longings, has desires. If you're a Christian like we are, we believe these are breadcrumbs placed there by God.
Yeah.
And so while we might be deeply, deeply secular, we're still human. So all is not lost.
Swimming against the tide, as it were, but doing so in a way which is, acknowledging the environment that we're in. We are swimming against the tide. We can live out our Christian faith without compromise, but also without being obnoxious about it.
Yeah, that's right. And look, what we're hearing from the secular and post-secular public is there's a deep suspicion of institutions. So it's not necessarily the Christian faith that we know, the substance of the faith. It's also post-Christian. A lot of them don't know the substance of the faith.
Yep.
It's institutions, it's authority structures or authoritarianism. It's those isms that are really the problem. And if we can get a head around that, well, again, I think the church has a lot to say. We don't have to rely on those structures. We don't have to rely on the external trappings of being a state-sponsored religion, which
Yep.
we certainly aren't anymore.
Yep.
So I just think the landscape's changed. We are grappling to change with it, but we do have the resources to do so.
The divorcing of faith and politics, and honestly, that's been more successful in some parts of the world than others. Is that good news for faith?
Well, again, let's be clear. We want to separate faith and politics in one way,
Yep.
but in another way, we certainly don't want to separate faith and politics, as if my faith has nothing to do with politics.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't necessarily want. We've learnt lessons when the state and the church effectively become the same thing. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. We just got too many stories of this. But as Christians who are concerned about people, the polis, from which we get politics, we are deeply, deeply committed to political positions, but not necessarily of one party or another. That's up to each individual, absolutely. But faith and belief does work itself out into social action of all people. Christians are highly political. That's a good thing. It's only when we assign Christianity to one political partisan group, I think then we're in trouble.
One of the, I suppose, watch cries of secularism is to say, well, it's okay for you to believe what you believe, just don't tell anybody else about it. This is something, if you have a faith, this is something you need to do privately. It's none of anybody else's business. We would rather you wouldn't, but please be quiet and do it in a corner somewhere where we don't have to see. What does that look like when it comes to sharing our faith? What does that look like for evangelism?
Yeah, I'm on study leave at the moment, and I'm writing a book on C.S. Lewis. So I'm reading lots and lots of C.S. Lewis. And I think he was the master of this. Before he would even feel compelled to talk about Christianity or the faith or even share a Bible verse, he basically named what was illogical about current positions.
Yep.
So he'd sort of take an idea, run it to its end and show it doesn't really work. And so I just think of my friends, my non-Christian friends, they don't want to hear me harp on about Christ every time we go out for dinner or do whatever. They know I'm a Christian. But because we are friends, because we respect each other, they have deeply held beliefs and convictions, and I ask them about them. Oh, why do you believe that? Why is that so important to you? Why are you so worked up about that? Why are you X, Y, Z? And then, because they're friends, they ask me. So I think we do get to share our faith through relationships, But the onus is on us, I think, as Christians, and this is where perhaps we need to lift our game. I'm a theologian, I admit my bias, but we really do need to know why we believe what we believe in order to share with our friends, share with our community. So I'm going to vote this particular way, or I'm going to in the local elections, or I'm going to act in this particular way. We're talking with some of our friends about parenting at the moment. And again, non-judgmental, we each parent how we want, but we're parenting this way because our values are here, because we get them from our Christian faith. And they're very open to that. Because we're not imposing it on them. And we hope that little by little, that'll start to make sense and the jigsaw pieces may fit together.
I mean, this is very different than the way things appear in some ways. And I love that. It's kind of a summary of have a reason for the hope that you have, but do so with gentleness and respect, right? Not everybody's got the memo on that one, Myk, and it seems that on faith issues and many other issues in our society at the moment, increasing polarization, and there's perhaps an old-fashioned metaphor of evangelism is some guy on a soapbox with a loud hailer holding tracts and yelling at people. That some aspects of that model seem to still be a bit sticky, perhaps.
Yeah, look, I passed one of those on the street the other day. I'm not saying there is no place for that. I'm not saying that, but it's certainly not the dominant discourse which non-Christians are able to hear.
Yep.
As I'm talking with my teenage children, they're really the ones asking the questions of the older generation. Look, my friends can't hear that. My friends don't get that message. My friends aren't able to perceive what that language means. How am I supposed to talk to them? And again, I think it's knowing why we believe what we believe, to trace things back to first principles, back to their cause, so to get beyond the polarization just for the sake of polarizing, which pretty much seems that's where the public's at.
Yeah.
I mean, seek first to understand, then be understood. But we're seeking to understand. We're not necessarily being understood. And so translation work, which I think pastors are the experts at, translating the Christian faith into contemporary language and idiom, but it's all our responsibility. So to be able to talk about how Jesus Christ has something to say to politics, to economics, to the way that we parent, to the way that for everything. And quite frankly, I think, again, sometimes our churches, maybe we're talking about esoteric things that people aren't interested in.
Yeah. I mean, back to the statistics that we mentioned earlier, 8 out of 10 people don't care. But maybe we're just saying it the wrong way. Maybe we're asking the wrong questions, or maybe we're doing too much talking and not asking enough questions.
Again, look, reported sales of C.S. Lewis's books are something like 1 billion copies.
Wow.
1 billion units. I mean, that's phenomenal. And you look at all these short essays, they're wonderful language. He's using very simple language for very complex ideas. He's using rich imagery. Again, I'm just taken by this because I'm working on it, but that is the way to go. So I'm thinking in each of my interactions with non-Christian friends, and when I'm speaking in public in different ways representing Christianity, how can I connect? I mean, my sermon on Sunday included references to Coco, the movie, the kids' movie, Moana, Star Wars, and Judy Hopps from Zootopia.
Oh, look at that! Things. Yeah, you obviously spend a lot of time watching kids' movies, but I mean, it's all part of your theological research, right?
And I was trying to relate to a younger demographic. I needed to try to translate, and I think that's the burden. We believe that God has given us a glimpse into the truth, and that's not an arrogant thing. That's a gift that we now want to give to others. How can they receive that gift? That's what we're really struggling with. And I think we got some great examples in New Zealand across the motu of Christians doing entrepreneurial, creative stuff, which is faithful. It's only when it becomes trendy for the sake of being trendy. People can spot that a mile away.
Yeah. Hey, appreciate the work that you're doing, and hey, all the best with the rest of your study and the work that you're doing. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Welcome. Thank you.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.